If you're an intermediate chess player and you're looking for a great opening choice as white, then look no further than the Vienna game and the Vienna Gambit. There's so many traps, so many tricks that people can fall into, even more experienced players. Like, hey, the Roy Lopez, Italian, more traditional openings like that, they're great, they're solid. But what we're really looking for sometimes, especially when we play these blitz games, is quick victories. We want to crush our opponents with tactics and quick strike attacks and sacrifices. And this is one opening that is basically my go-to. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys a few awesome traps you can use as white using the Vienna game. Let's get into it. So the Vienna, of course, starts with e4, e5. We're going to play knight c3. He'll play knight f6. And then the Vienna Gambit starts with f4. And here we're going to look at a couple lines if he takes. So if black takes, we're going to play e5. And here the knight's really short in squares. It can't go to d5. Our knight's protecting that. Can't go to e4. Can't go to g4. Can't go to h5. So it's like, where does it go, you know? Only move really, and the best move is knight g8. But a lot of times you'll see people play queen e7, thinking they're clever, you know, blocking the pin with their queen. But we can block that pin as well. And now this attack is back on the knight. The knight's got to do something, so they'll play knight g8 usually. And here there's a couple moves you can play. You can play either d4 or knight f3. I usually play knight f3. It's a little bit more natural. Stuff with h4 can be annoying. Queen h4 can be annoying. But I want to take a look at what we can do actually if if they play queen h4. I mean, if you look at the right, I mean, look at these win rates. It's ridiculous. But we're gonna play d4. Really common move is queen h4. Obviously, it's very natural. Here, instead of playing g3, that could be a little bit messy with f takes. We're actually gonna play king d1. That's actually the best move. There's a couple of things they can do. One of them is bishop b4. Here, we just simply chase the queen away. They might go to, looks like a g4. I mean, you can play knight d5, already threatening fork, threatening the bishop. They got to go back to a5 to defend it. I mean, simply we just chase the queen away. We win lots of tempo. We're going to get all our pieces out. He's barely developed. It's just better for white. Okay, so we know d4 is pretty good, but what about if we play what I usually play? I usually play knight f3 here. So there's many things that black can do here, actually. Many times this is a very common move. They're trying to attack this e4 pawn, or e5 pawn, excuse me. So they'll play d6. And here, you just go straight up with knight d5, hitting this queen. Queen's got to do something. A lot of times you'll see queen d8. And here, there's a couple of really cool lines here. We have a lot of big threats. This queen's lined up on the king, so any taking with a pawn is going to be checked. So here, we can play off that tactic with a couple moves. There's one thing you can play. You can play knight takes d7. And here, if the queen... I've won many games this way. If the queen takes, we simply have e takes d6, and you're just losing your queen and you win the game. I mean, it's up to you really to convert that position. But I mean, obviously it's extremely winning. But the really cool line here is either one is basically around +10 according to the engine. My favorite, I don't usually play it because I don't want to mess it up at a game. But you actually play e takes d6 immediately. Funny enough, and there's a couple of different things black can do to block the check. My favorite one to look at, though, is if they play bishop e6. And here, there's some really cool, really spicy stuff. Here, we just play knight takes c7 check. King's got to move. He only has one square. Either king's got to move or the queen takes. It's probably the best move for the queen to take, honestly. King's in big trouble here, but usually they'll probably play king d7. And here you play knight e5, and the king has to actually go to c8. If he tries to take this pawn, for example, we simply the actual best move is not to take this rook. We want to take this bishop here, and if they take, we simply have a fork on the king and the queen, win the game again. But the really cool line I really want to show you, one of my favorite lines that I'm going to cover in this video, is if they go to c8, we're actually still going to take this bishop. And the reason why is we want to open up lines on this king. That bishop's an important defender. Really, the main reason, though, is we want to get this knight out of the way. So they'll take. And here the move is queen c4 check. And really, the only move here is to block with a knight. And I'll give you guys a couple seconds to figure out what the move is here. Yeah, we actually sack our queen with queen takes c6. And it's basically a forced mate. If he takes, we play bishop a6 check. He's got to move, and then we play knight takes c6 checkmate, which is just freaking brutal. I mean, just look at that. Look at that mate. King's all in the corner. We don't have a queen, but it doesn't matter. Those pieces are so strong. He could also try king b8, but obviously one, he's already down a piece, and it doesn't really matter because you're just gonna play knight d7 check, and he has to take with the queen because we're basically, as one of my favorite chess YouTubers says, we're basically imitating checkmate here. It's mate. The king can't move. Queen's got to take. We win the queen. Game's over. Which I just thought that line with queen c6 is just awesome, to be honest. So that's if they play bishop d6. I'll show the other line. I mean, it's all super winning for white. I mean, if you look at the engine, it's plus 10. If they could play bishop d6 here, here we simply play knight takes c7, and if we turn the engine on, they just want the queen to take the knight here. I mean, if you play king f8, I mean, we simply take here. Queen takes, we take, we win a free rook. I mean, king's wide open. We're gonna get our pieces out quickly. I mean, look, every single game that's continuing, white's won every single game from this position. So, I mean, what more can I give you guys, really? Obviously, queen e7 is not good. So let's look at if he plays knight g8. That's the best move here. There's some similar themes, very similar, in fact. I usually play knight f3 here. Here d6 is not as bad because the queen's not on e7, so it's not threatening it immediately. Here we're actually going to play d4 if they play d6, and most of the time they'll take here. And actually the best move here is actually queen e2. And with queen e2, we're basically, you know, putting more threats. The alignments causes lots of tactics to appear, basically. We play queen e2. They'll play, many times they'll play, you know, knight c6, for example, is the most popular move according to the Chess database. Another one is f6, which, if you look at that, white's winning 74% of the time, simply because we have, you know, bishop takes f4. I mean, this is super weak. We have ideas of taking here. It's just really bad. We go back. Yeah, d4. A lot of times they'll play, you know, d takes c5, like, again, is the most popular move. And here, like I said, we play queen e2, right? And here the most popular move is knight c6. And again, we play bishop takes f4. You know, and they might play queen e7, or they might play bishop e7. Here we'll just play knight takes e5, knight takes e5, bishop takes e5, and usually they'll play something like knight f6 here. I mean, it's not as great, but I mean, we're whittling down, you know, some of these variations. Like, let's say, for example, I mean, they're not gonna. I mean, by the time we get to this point, they're not. I mean, they're gonna have depending on their rating, they're gonna have messed up already. I mean, here they play here. I mean, we could just, for instance, we could, you know, we could take the knight. He's got to take with the g pawn because of the pin. And you know, once they take back, we just castle, and we got plenty of attacking chances. This king is gonna have trouble castling. I mean, it's super wide open. We're gonna move our queen somewhere, get this bishop out, get our rooks on these files. I mean, it's just super nice attacking chances for white here. So let's go back. E4, E4, E5. Excuse me. Knight C3, Knight F6, and here we established that taking is not really good for black at all. So what if they decide to play the main line, which is D5? This is actually the best move. You want to contest the center as black. Here we simply take on E5. They'll usually take here. And here's another way the game could go. I usually play Queen F3, but you could also opt to go for Knight F3. That's perfectly fine. You know, if they play Knight takes C3, we take with a B pawn. We're gonna get a big center. You know, and I mean, look at these win rates: 65%, 68%, 62%. It's just very good results for white. You know, alternatively, they could play bishop g4, which looks pretty scary. They got a lot of pressure. They want to bring in this knight, and you know, put tons of pressure on this knight. So really, what we got to do here immediately is play queen e2. They'll play knight c6, and here simply play knight takes e4. And many times people will fall for this. They go, oh, danger levels, as Levy would say, as Gotham Chess would say. Oh, we might be able to play, you know, knight d4 here, but it's actually a blunder because we can actually play queen d3 here, and if they take, you might think, oh, take back. That's a pretty natural move. But then they get this. I mean, we already won a piece technically, so we actually just move our knight back. And funny enough, they can't save both their bishop and their knight. You know, they're both hanging. We're gonna be up a piece in the end. And here, according to the engine, white's +6. You know, so they might, move their knight back. We take. I mean, we're up a piece. Up to you to win that. That's the main line. Another way this game could go is right. We said takes. I like to play queen f3, and there's just lots of attacking options. We're gonna have this f file open. Sometimes they'll take here. If they take on c3, which is the most common move, there's different ways you can play it. Not really the best move is b takes, but sometimes I like to even play d takes to open this bishop up. Quick development. If they play here, we're gonna play, you know, bishop b5. You're gonna want to get your knight here, get your queen here. Not right now because there's potential ideas, but eventually you're gonna want your queen here, get your knight on e2. Some good attacking chances there. But best move is to take here. They'll play, you know, this, and this is how the game could go. You know, not the best, but that's if they avoid all the traps and everything. That's if they play. That's all the knight of 6 lines. Here, many times you'll see something like bishop c5, for example. And here, the engine might say play knight f3, play f4. You gotta play f4 here. Queen h4 doesn't work. You have g3. Queen's getting chased away. You're getting quick development. You're gonna hit this bishop. Strong attack. For example, here. I don't know. Goes back. We get knight of 3. If they take, we get. You know, if they take here, we get this. I mean, again, back to 70s and 60% win rates here for white. It's not good. So queen really, you really can't play queen h4 here. Usually they'll take. We'll play knight f3, and I've gotten this position lots of times. You just play d4, and white's comfortable. I mean, again, look at these win rates. Bishop g4 isn't scary. I mean, let's say bishop g4. Obviously it's not scary. It's funny. It's funny. These people, they already don't know what to do. They're playing bishop g4, just hanging a piece straight up. You know, bishop's got to move. You know, you're getting a big center, strong attacking chances. I mean, these are all in the 50s, high 50%. So I mean, bishop c5 is not really a very serious thing to worry about. One last thing that they could do is they could kind of copy you. So knight c3, knight c6. We play bishop c4. We want to get our bishop out. Very common motif you'll see in some of these Vienna lines and King's Gambit lines. And here, if they play bishop c5, this is something called the Vienna Copycat Variation, which is one of my favorite variations in chess. Actually, it gets very wild. Here, the move actually is queen g4. We want to exploit the fact that this bishop is left its guard of g7. You know, we got a lot of threats looming. Here, the only, you know, serious move, any other move really, white's got a big advantage. They got to play queen f6 here, and this might look scary to the uninitiated. You know, you have the queen and the bishop looking at f2, and I'm sure you've had this where you're like, oh, 64 squares. I'm sure you've had this where you're like, oh, Davis, isn't that mate? Well, no, the queen's moved from d1, so now the king has an escape square. So actually, instead of defending this pawn, we actually are gonna straight up give it up. It's actually a free pawn. Yeah, we're actually just gonna give it up. Instead, we're gonna play knight d5, and your opponent might be like, oh, look at this idiot, I'm just gonna checkmate him, so they'll play queen takes f2, and here you simply play king d1, and when the dust clears for a minute, black's got a lot of threats they gotta worry about. They got potential forks with this knight on c7. You got the queen looking at g7. It's scary. It's sometimes hard to defend. There's a couple different things they could do. You got to be careful with this d6 move because, of course, when this d pawn moves, this bishop's hitting this queen. So that's, if you ever play this, you got to keep an eye on this for sure. But here, one of the popular moves they could play maybe is knight f6, and that's just straight up losing. We take g7. Rook g8 doesn't work because we have knight takes f6, and if queen takes, we take the rook. Obviously that doesn't work. Another thing they could try is very popular move is actually king f8. It's been played about 25,000 times, and here the move actually is we have this pawn hanging, but we actually want to play knight h3 here. And if you look at the queen very carefully, it's got, a very limited amount of squares it can go to. This square is covered, this square is covered, this square is covered by the knight. This square is covered by the pawn, this square is covered by the other knight. Rook's got this. It's covered by the pawn. This is the only square it can go to, is d4. So queen's got to go to d4, and here we play, we actually play d3. Here they might try to scare us, play d6, and that's something we got to be aware of at all times, obviously. But we just simply move our queen up or something of the sort, and they might try to chase us away. But really the bottom line is eventually we're gonna get this this c3 move in, and let's just say, for example, this queen's trapped. Funny enough, this queen is trapped. So this is definitely something you need to know if you're playing the Vienna. This line with the knight h3 and this trapped queen on d4. I've beaten lots of people this way. Used to be surprised, some higher rated people as well. Another thing, another way you could go is we already covered knight f6. If they play d6, we simply go to g7. Threatening the rook. Still defending. You got to be careful about taking this rook, though, I got to say, in this opening. The king doesn't really have any squares, so we really need to make sure our queen keeps an eye on this. We take this pawn. Really what we're doing is getting out of the way of this check, and we're going to threaten this again. So let's say the most popular move is, bishop e6. Here we're going to play, what does the engine say? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it still is knight h3. If bishop takes h3, we actually don't take back right away. The move, yeah, see if you see the difference, it matters a lot. Because if you take back right away, if you look at this, black's winning 74% of the time. The key move here to remember is if they take on h3, you got to play rook f1. And we are simply basically threatening mate here. The queen really doesn't have many places it could go. You could try bishop g4. We simply just take. It's just really bad. If you remember that rook f1 move, you're good. So to recap with the copycat, they copy us like that. We play queen g4. They play queen f6. We play knight d5. They take on f2. We play king d1. Then they many times they'll play d6. We play queen takes g7. A lot of times they'll play bishop e6, right? And then we play knight h3, and they take, we play rook f1, remember? And if we play another line, such as, I don't know, if it's king f1, remember, knight h3, d4, here, bishop moves, just move your queen somewhere, and you're gonna get this c3 moving. Yeah, so that's about it as far as the Vienna goes. There's just a few traps you guys can maybe use in your games. Highly recommend this opening. If you liked the video, I mean, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, I'd love to hear from you guys, so definitely drop a comment if you enjoyed, and let me know what you want to see from me. You know, any openings, any recaps of certain players. I'm still trying to figure out the content thing. I'm gonna try to get a couple more videos out really quickly. I know it's been a bit of a drought for me. I had a couple of videos that got messed up. One got corrupted. One I lost some of the audio from. So I'm really gonna try to grind to catch up and everything. But I really appreciate you guys. Appreciate all you do, support. You know, y'all have a good one, and peace.